It's 6 p.m. here in Korea. Thank you for joining us. I'm Daniel Che. Let's start with the headlines. At a cabinet meeting earlier today, President Park Geun-hye shifted the focus away from her party's embattled floor leader and her recent veto of a controversial parliamentary law to focus on ensuring the local economy hurt by a severe drought and the MERS outbreak. Make sure it gets the help it needs, that is. Time is not a friend to Greece as tension remains high between the debt-ridden country and its Eurozone partners. German Chancellor Angela Merkel and French President François Hollande urge Athens to act quickly to get things moving again. The Seoul Central District Court dismisses all injunctions brought by Elliott Associates, saying Samsung C&T's proposal for a merger with an affiliate is reasonable. But the war is not over, as the American hedge fund's next move may be to take the case to the International Court. A day after the parliament fell short of a majority to vote again on disputed revisions to the National Assembly law, President Park Geun-hye, who vetoed the law, remained tight-lipped on politics. Instead, she spent most of today's cabinet meeting on measures to revive the domestic economy, although she did have a strong message for the cabinet. Our Choi You-sun starts us off.
Keeping mum about politics since vetoing a bill to revise the National Assembly law nearly 2 weeks ago, President Park Geun-hye focused most of her attention at Tuesday's cabinet meeting on the local economy. Concerned about the economic impact of a severe drought and the MERS outbreak, the president stressed the need to include a recently pledged $10 billion supplementary budget in the government's $20 billion stimulus package.
추경이 조속한 시일 내에 통과할 수 있도록 관계부처 모두 국회 심의에 적극 협조하고 통과 즉시 바로 집행이 될 수 있도록 행정부 내부 준비에도 만전을 기하기를 바랍니다.
She called for the necessary aid to reach businesses and industries hurt by the MERS outbreak at the right time, and asked civil servants and the corporate sector to take their summer holidays in the country to revitalize the local tourism sector. President Park also called for a close examination of how the Greek debt crisis will affect the Korean economy. The president, who lobbed heavy criticism at ruling party floor leader Yoo Seung-min for engaging in politics for his own personal philosophy at the previous meeting, urged the cabinet this time to prioritize improving the people's livelihoods and the domestic economy.
국무위원들께서도 국민을 대신해서 각 부처를 잘 이끌어 주셔야 합니다. 여기에는 개인적인 행로가 있을 수 없을 것입니다.
By not making any direct comment about the embattled floor leader, President Park has clearly stood by her position that his resignation is the only way to put an end to the political discord over the controversial law revisions. Choi You-sun, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the presidential office says it will be inappropriate for the main opposition party to use President Park's name when labeling a previously scrapped bill to revise the National Assembly law. Her spokesperson said not only is it unsuitable to name a bill after the president, the opposition's claim that the president herself had put forth the old revisions is false. He explained that instead she co-signed the bills in 1998 and 1999 as a bill requires the support of 10 lawmakers to be introduced, and that the recent revisions to the Assembly law, which the president vetoed, is fundamentally different. The opposition party accuses President Park of contradicting herself, since the old revisions would also have required that the administration accept the parliament's request to change ordinances. President Park's office argues the old revisions had recognized the government's discretionary power. The fate of the ruling Century Party's embattled floor leader Yoo Seung-min will be decided at a general meeting of party lawmakers on Wednesday morning. Our Park Ji-won has the latest on the man who has been under intense pressure to resign from the presidential office and within his own party because of his involvement in the initial passage of a new, now vetoed bill, that is. Take a look.
The ruling Century Party's Supreme Council will convene a general meeting of its lawmakers on Wednesday to end its internal strife over the fate of its floor leader Yoo Seung-min.
The Supreme Council said it will convene a general meeting with the goal of adopting a resolution to urge the floor leader to resign for the future of the party and the success of the Park Geun-hye administration.
Second-term lawmaker Kim Tae-ho, who is one of 5 Supreme Council members, further explained.
I think Supreme Council members share an understanding that a quick resolution is beneficial for both the public and the party.
Yu said on Tuesday that he would accept the will of his fellow lawmakers.
The Supreme Council asked for a general meeting to be convened at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, and I accepted the request. I also accept the outcome of the meeting. That's it.
The Supreme Council's pressure on Yu comes after an internal deadline set by lawmakers loyal to President Park, which was this Monday. Yu has been facing growing pressure from within the party to step down ever since President Park criticized him for his role in the initial passage late last month of a bill she vetoed. Still, a sizable number of his fellow conservative lawmakers support him. A local media outlet surveyed the allegiances of all Saenuri Party lawmakers, and it showed those loyal to President Park account for roughly 22%, while those who are not part of the pro-Park faction account for an estimated 34%. The rest of the party's members, or roughly 44%, are neutral. Due to the relatively smaller percentage of President Park loyalists inside the party, some analysts speculate that Yu's resignation will only deepen the internal strife within the party. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
The Assembly's Judiciary Committee held a one-day confirmation hearing for Justice Minister nominee Kim Yeon-neung, the current head of the Seoul High Prosecutor's Office. During the hearing, the nominee vowed to strengthen law and order and eradicate corruption. He also said chronic corruption has been a major stumbling block for Korea and pledged to focus on fostering a fair and transparent society. Lawmakers also questioned him about the potential need for a special prosecutor to investigate a recent high-profile bribery scandal, to which he said he'd respect whatever decision is made by the parliament. The Justice Minister post has been vacant since last month, when former Justice Minister Hwang Kyo-wan resigned to become the current Prime Minister. There is fresh controversy today after UNESCO's recent listing of Japanese wartime industrial facilities as World Heritage Sites. Hoping to pull the wool over people's eyes at home, the Japanese government is already trying to muddy the waters about the use of Korean slave laborers at the facilities. At least 7 of the sites force tens of thousands of Koreans to toil during Japan's colonial rule of Korea. According to our Kim Hyun-bin, some of the voices of criticism come from within.
U.S. Congressman Mike Honda has taken aim at the Japanese government for failing to inform the public at home that Tokyo has acknowledged the use of forced labor at several of Japan's newly UNESCO-inscribed sites. Describing it as a typical tactic to mislead the Japanese people on history, Honda said Tokyo avoided using the expression forced labor, instead translating it into a much softer colloquial expression. The Japanese-American representative called on Japan to be honest about the facility's history and fully acknowledged that POWs from around the world suffered there. He also advised Japan to clearly apologize to victims still alive. This comes after Japanese media reported on Monday that Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida said Tokyo did not acknowledge that Koreans were forced to labor at several of the sites. In his comments, he made reference to Japanese Ambassador to UNESCO Kuni Sato's statement at the World Heritage Committee meeting, which said a large number of Koreans were forced to work at some of the sites.
The expression forced to work does not imply forced labor.
Seoul's foreign ministry reacted quickly to refute the minister's claims, saying the English version of the statement is the one officially adopted by UNESCO's World Heritage Committee. Therefore, it's the official text, and there's no room for misinterpretation. Japan's daily Mainichi Shimbun also refuted the government's position, saying in an editorial that Koreans were forced into hard labor without freedom to switch jobs, and called on the government not to escalate tensions with Korea. Japan must submit a progress report by the end of 2017 on its efforts to publicly acknowledge incidents of forced labor at the sites. The report will be reviewed by the World Heritage Committee the following year. But if Japan's progress is deemed unsatisfactory, the sites could be removed from the UNESCO list. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Shifting gears now, North Korea appears to be tightening its grip on the country's overseas workers. This amid recent reports that high-ranking officials are fleeing Pyongyang out of fear they might be executed under the Kim Jong-un regime. Here's Na Young-kyung with the details.
North Korea still seems to be monitoring its workers overseas dispatched abroad to earn hard currency. A South Korean government official said Tuesday that North Korea recently checked upon its roughly 50,000 laborers in 40 foreign countries. This comes a day after Radio Free Asia reported that North Korea called in some of its workers in China, suggesting the regime is tightening its grip on its workers overseas. Speaking on condition of anonymity, the official from Seoul's Unification Ministry also said it's not known at this point whether the move is aimed at putting some of the workers behind bars or simply checking upon their progress. The official added, however, that in general, the regime seems to be keeping a close watch on the laborers rather than recalling them officially. This is not the first time the Kim Jong-un regime has monitored its overseas workers. Officials say the regime took similar actions in July and August last year and during the year this year. But the moves have provoked the curiosity of North Korea watchers, especially in light of South Korean media reports last week that a series of mid-ranking North Korean officials have sought asylum in recent weeks. The reports said ruling party and government officials were seeking to defect to South Korea out of a fear for their lives in the wake of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's so-called reign of terror. Na Hyun-kyung, Arirang News.
Let's turn our focus outside of Korea. A day after Greeks overwhelmingly voted against the terms of their bailout program, the leaders of Greece's major creditor nations, Germany and France, held a meeting to discuss what to do next. They say the doors for talks are open, but urge Athens to come up with serious proposals to move things forward. Our Han Da-eun tells us more.
Sunday's referendum has emboldened Greece to push for a bailout package that's in their best interest, but tensions remain high between the debt-ridden country and its Eurozone partners. German Chancellor Angela Merkel says the country respects the results of Sunday's referendum, but stressed that Athens needs to work quickly to come up with constructive proposals to address the current crisis.
Time is of the essence, and we insist that the Greek proposals must be on the table this week, so we can deal with the situation the way it is at the moment.
French President François Hollande, who previously deferred with Merkel on how to handle the Greek crisis, echoed Merkel's comments this time, saying that Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras needs to make serious, credible proposals so his desire to stay in the Eurozone can be realized. The two leaders called on Eurozone leaders to hold an emergency summit in Brussels on Tuesday, local time. At the talks, the Greek Prime Minister is expected to present a new proposal that reportedly demands the country's debt be cut by up to 30%. Tsipras, who gained a major boost after Sunday's victory, has already made clear that he wants the proposed debt relief outlined in the IMF's latest report on Greece to be part of the agenda for future talks. The IMF had said that Greece's debts are unsustainable and should be restructured. All eyes are now fixed on the Greek leader's upcoming proposal, as it's regarded as his last chance to save the country from imminent financial collapse. Greek banks will remain shut and capital controls will stay in place until Wednesday, local time. Han Da-eun, Arirang News.
Turning our sights to the tech realm, Samsung Electronics is still struggling to regain the spark that drove it to the top of the tech world. The company's guidance figures for the second quarter show that while Samsung's profits picked up on quarter, they were still down from the same period last year. Analysts say disappointing smartphone sales most likely ate into profits made by its memory chip division. Our Kim Min-ji has this report.
Second quarter figures from Samsung Electronics show the Korean tech giant is slowly recovering, but it's still underperforming compared to a year ago. In its preliminary earnings forecast, Samsung recorded an operating profit of $6.1 billion, up more than 15% from the previous quarter. Compared to last year, it's down 4%. Sales also fell 8% on year to nearly $43 billion. After an earnings shock in the third quarter of last year, Samsung has rebounded and is on a mild recovery track. But second quarter earnings still fell slightly below analyst expectations of $6.3 billion. Analysts attribute this to tepid sales of Samsung's latest smartphones. After the release of its Galaxy S6 Edge smartphone in April, Samsung also failed to meet the unexpected demand for the industry's first smartphone with curved screens on both sides. On top of this, Apple has been eating into Samsung's share of the so-called phablet market with its bigger iPhones, while Chinese players have been gaining ground at the low end of the market. Analysts assume the majority of Samsung's profits to be generated by its memory chip division, as well as consumer electronics sector, especially due to better TV sales. The guidance figure does not break down the performance by sector, and the company's finalized earnings will be announced later this month. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The Seoul Central District Court has dismissed all injunctions brought by the U.S. hedge fund Elliott Associates, which was seeking to block a proposed merger by Samsung C&T Corporation. The court said Tuesday that the takeover offer by JL Industries, Samsung Group's defector holding firm, is a reasonable management decision. Elliott, the third largest shareholder in Samsung's construction unit, had argued that the merger is unfair, saying Samsung C&T shareholders would be getting well under market price for their shares. With the court's decision, Samsung C&T will go ahead with a scheduled shareholder vote on July 17th, where it will most likely win approval for the merger with the other Samsung unit. On a more lighter note, Bingsoo is an extremely popular shaved ice flake dessert that's usually consumed during Korea's hot summer months. It could be topped with milk, fruit, red bean paste, rice cakes, and so much more. It is, of course, delicious, but as with most food that tastes good, it packs a heavy caloric punch. According to local food industry sources, the amount of calories in one serving of Bingsoo, sold at a popular bakery chain in Korea, is equal to, get this, 4 bowls of white rice, coming in at a belt-busting 900 calories. It also contains 9 grams of saturated fat, well over half an adult's daily recommended amount. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with Hwang Ji-hye for Primetime News at 10 p.m. Korea time.